Well, as you can see, I'm back playing Call of Duty, and I thought I would make this short one-off video to update the larger video I made about a year ago about playing all 40 Call of Duty campaigns on Veteran. I released that video right before the 2020 CoD release information, so at the time I didn't even know it was going to be Cold War. Once I found Treyarch was 1, continuing the Black Ops storyline, and 2, doing it with the well-known characters we love, I got really excited. I anxiously awaited all the release info and the trailer, and once I saw Mason, Woods, and Hudson back after being absent in BO3, it had me hype. This is exactly what I was hoping for. A Cold War Vietnam themed game with the OG characters while adding new ones. They gave us exactly what we wanted. I've been diligently avoiding spoilers from every direction. School, YouTube, even my own house, where my roommate was playing through the campaign downstairs. I've had the game for a while now, but like many know, getting the Xbox Series X is way easier said than done. Finally, after several failed attempts, I got my hands on one. I decided to go next gen paired with the 4K TV because I wanted to experience Cold War in the best way possible. So once the planets aligned and I had everything I needed, I sat down and played the Cold War campaign. Just know, spoilers majorly incoming. Things you need to know. I played this twice. First time casually on regular and a second time on veteran, like I did for all the other games. Also note there's a realism mode, a difficulty above veteran, which I didn't play but is described as the most challenging experience. I assume less checkpoints, less and slower regenning health, but just know I played veteran. Know that chronologically this game takes place between Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, but you definitely don't need to have played those games previously to enjoy yourself. It's just fun to notice nods to those game stories if you're familiar with them. Anyway, there's a total of 9 main story missions and 2 optional side missions. There are 6 CAA safe house / debriefing sections that appear to be missions but are just in between interludes that add story exposition. Also note there are several split endings, one good, one bad, and one worse, somewhat similar to how they split the story in Black Ops 2. The split endings and story differences result from decisions you make and outcomes of the 2 optional side missions I mentioned, which I did both by the way. Those decisions include mostly dialogue choices, which is a new mechanic not commonly used in CoD campaigns, and whether or not to kill or save certain characters throughout the story. When it comes to the main story, you play mostly as a character named Bell, but occasionally as Alex Mason. This character Bell you play is actually customizable. There's a new feature in this game where you can name yourself, choose gender, skin tone, ethnicity, and personality traits, which all have their own benefit, which I really liked. The name Bell comes from your middle name. Just know all the characters will refer to you as Bell instead of the custom name you chose. I really respect this new character creation. I just really wish we could see our character or at least hear them. You never do. They even blur the in-game mirrors or hide Bell in the shadows so you can't see them. It's still better than the player you're referred to as in BO3. Now first let me talk about the characters. Like I said, Mason, Woods, and Hudson are back. Last time we saw them was in BO2, and I think I can speak for everyone that they're some of the best characters in this series. These versions of them ended up being alright. Mad respect to the devs putting them in this game. Except to me, they feel like shells of their former selves. Woods is pretty damn accurate. Different voice, but close, and his actions and dialogue fit his personality. Hudson is totally fine. His voice has changed several times in the past, so I'm used to it, and I'm content with this version of him. Now when it comes to Mason though, yikes. Mason's look, totally cool with. It's that voice though. How could they have not found someone to better replicate the iconic voice?
That's what you do best, isn't it, Hudson? Manipulate people. Tell them your own version of the truth.
Every time I heard it, it threw me off. It broke immersion for me. I got used to it with the 2 playthroughs, but I just wish they did my boy right and nailed the voice. The new characters, including Parker, Sims, Lazar, and Adler, are all pretty forgettable, except Adler. I'm a big fan of his inclusion. His badass vibe with the scar and fancy hair paired with the questionable motives and how he's really hard to read make him a new favorite of mine and a very welcomed addition. The villain Perseus is alright. The whole game, all the characters really hype him up and you don't even see him to the final 2 missions, so I didn't really fear him like the game wanted me to. Just trust me, he's no Menendez. The guys that work for Perseus are obviously set up to be side villains like Kravchenko and Steiner were to Dragovich and Black Ops 1, who are all actually mentioned several times in the game, which I loved. For Kravchenko in particular, a younger version of himself is in this game, who was awesome to see return for a 3rd time when we all thought he died in BO1. And to add to that, he sits alongside, get this, a young Zakayev from Modern Warfare, which you know what that means. Official confirmation of the Modern Warfare and Black Ops games being connected in some way. So dope. Never before done. Lastly, for characters, I've always thought it was neat how the Black Ops games often intertwine real historical figures into the story, this time with President Reagan and Gorbachev, the Russian leader. Similar to how they did with JFK, Castro, and McNamara in the previous games, it adds a little extra impact to the story. Now, when you talk about gameplay, off the bat, absolutely amazing game to look at. Definite graphical improvement for Modern Warfare. Not only do the cutscenes look good, but the gameplay does as well. Similar to Modern Warfare, there are sections that legitimately look real, trippy at certain parts. I mean, the lighting really adds to the realism. Some crazy good looking areas. I mean, impressive throughout. I was constantly floored. I just really love how this game has a dark overall vibe and aesthetic, but incorporates bright popping colors here and there. The way it normally is Infinity Ward games are bland and dingy looking and Treyarch's are colorful and vibrant, and I think this game is a perfect combo of the two. A great example is the early Spetsnaz arcade training camp mission, one of my favorites in the game, where it has that dark feel while incorporating that signature bright feel of the 80s. With that, the whole game does a great job replicating the Black Ops feel with the music, the map design, the guns. I mean, you've got some classics back, like the legendary Stoner 63 and the clunky but classic China Lake. And with the music, it's good, and it definitely makes certain parts more intense and sometimes way more epic. Occasionally the music might not fit perfectly, but usually it's just what you need to power through a tricky section. And when it comes to weaponry, you gotta respect the different weapons at your disposal throughout, such as the trank gun you use for stealth, the super fun recurve bow, which is rarely used in campaigns and a blast to take out enemies quickly and silently, the minigun towards the end of the game that obliterates countless Russians. You got the powerful Desert Eagle-esque hand cannon, the incendiary shotgun shells alongside the Molotov cocktails, and you got those brutal stealth hatchets. Also, you got to keep an eye out for the more unique and powerful guns that are hidden throughout missions. Weapon variety was definitely really solid in Cold War. So let's talk about the new mechanics found in Cold War. There's a ton, and here's some of the ones I noticed while playing. A lot of these are rarely seen or never before seen features, such as the ability to sneak up on enemies and use them as a human body shield, where you can see their health depleting as they soak bullets. That, or you could perform the new instant takedowns, which there's a lot of different ones. I was constantly cracking up with how brutal some of these can be. Throughout, you'll be doing a lot of lockpicking, which I initially thought was like Skyrim's, but it's not quite. You just jiggle around until the pins unlock. It's nothing special, just know you'll be jerking your screen around a lot during it. There's also, anytime you use a sniper and hold the steady, you go slow-mo and you can dome enemies with ease and accuracy, and it's honestly way more fun than the standard hardscoping. Grenade throwing has been tweaked with this game as well. You can seemingly throw farther and more accurately than in previous titles alongside a new animation. There are several new game mechanics you'll be using a lot in this game, like the cameras that are used to take photos or the computers that you have to access information from, and you'll be doing a lot of body hiding, or instead you can just toss them around, which is pretty fun. Before each mission, there's a new ability to review evidence before you launch. It alludes to what will take place and it gives you additional info to the plot. The biggest gameplay improvement in my opinion is the feel of the gunplay mixed with the sound design. Every time you use a gun, it feels better than ever because of the super satisfying bullet impact combined with the gratifying hit markers. The way the hit markers turn red to indicate a kill is such a great new feature. Just like how Modern Warfare felt like a total redesign of the CoD feel, Cold War does the same thing. It's a definite refinement of the CoD formula. Another thing you'll see a bunch of is a variety of arcade cabinets to play. It's cool because a lot of these arcade games we know and love are by an early Activision games, so it's cool to see that most of them are playable, bunch of iconic titles hidden all over, fully playable classics. Something you'll also see a lot is instead of model acted cutscenes, there is instead mostly stock footage giving us a visual during characters' narration. Some might call this lazy filler, but damn do they look good. I mean, look at that paperclip though! And you can't go without mentioning the new feature of being able to see your feet. And that weird as hell new running animation. Just know there's a lot of new mechanics in this title, and they're welcomed additions. Okay, now on to notable mission moments. Cold War contains some real memorable sections, such as the part where you're killing VC from the helicopter turret, but then your helicopter crashes, but you have to continue to kill them using the turret, all while being upside down. Later in the game, you actually get to operate a helicopter and continue to take out enemies below. I actually really like how they don't super obviously highlight where the enemies are. You really have to pay attention to see them. Just know a bunch of innocent rice farmers will be collateral damage. Other mission highlights include the several different zipline routes you can take, or when you have to use the RCXD to explode a plane. There's the previously mentioned training course mission where the simulated town actually has a replica Burger Town restaurant in it with the mascot that can actually drop you a China Lake. There's a getaway sequence where there's a weather balloon escape from a rooftop like in the Dark Knight. There's a small part where you creep around and disarm bouncing Bettys. Then there's during the winter mission when you need to spy on the Russians and the only available tool is a construction surveyor. And tying in with that, there's a whole bunch of weird tech you'll use throughout. It's always cool to see what they come up with. Other memorable moments include the pitch black flashlight ambush portion. There's the intense sequence where you're on your last leg defending yourself and teammates and you have to call in an airstrike even though you're protecting a literal nuke next to you, or the super epic and funny snowmobile section in one of the side missions where you can use it as a weapon to just ragdoll enemies. Those are all great, but I think the best mission might be the Russian stealth section where you creep around undercover, unlocking doors, finding items, similar to the one in CoD World War II. It was a nice change of pace and a respectable addition to switch up the formula. It's a little simple with the narrator telling you instructions, but pretty fun and well done. Even though this game does a lot new, there's a lot of classic CoD tropes to run into, like the overall crazy off-the-wall unrealistic action scenes that we all love from Call of Duty. You also got the exaggerated explosions, the ammo crates scattered all over, the slide ability, instead of the usual Treyarch dolphin dive, slow-mo portions where you can witness an epic moment in bullet time, AC-130 sequences, hell, you even blow up a flat gun like back in the day. I really enjoy how there's a bunch of little Easter eggs and references sprinkled throughout the game, like the computer from BO1, or there's also this hidden trapdoor where you fight and run away from Nova 6 zombies, which I just love that Nova 6 makes another return. It's always been a favorite story element in the Black Ops subseries for me. And come on, they even have a vintage Mountain Dew and Doritos reference to add to the 80s feel. I mean, mad respect. During the story, you even do a few puzzles, like the lining up of the projectors to unlock a door, or finding hidden rooms detective style, or my favorite where in order to unlock a case you need to decipher a puzzle using elements on the periodic table. None were that hard, but they're all kind of fun to figure out. Okay, for the side missions, if you asked me if they're worth doing, I'd say if you're a diehard fan like me, yeah, but in terms of the story, they're supposed to greatly impact it, but it's just a slight change to the after ending cutscene. I really like how they require a little effort to complete, because the game allows you to play them right off the bat, or instead collect intel to make them easier, which I found to be true for one of the missions, not the other, but regardless, I like that added bit of difficulty. Some of that intel or evidence can be found throughout the main story, usually in those rooms where you see the new mechanic of in objective area title at the top of the screen. I found most of them on the first playthrough, but I just replayed one mission on Recruit just to find one last piece of evidence. For that mission where the evidence was essential, it was really fun to work together with my roommate to decipher the codes needed to decrypt the floppy disk that ties into that mission. We ended up way overthinking it, but regardless, it was fun because CoD never does that. Now, when it comes to campaign's length, it's fine. Not too long, not too short, isn't drawn out. Pretty standard. When it comes to the story, it's an interesting idea. Russia makes the US look guilty by setting off US planted nukes. It's a nice little twist. In terms of difficulty, not a hard game. Contains a few hardish portions, but nothing compared to the previous games. Trust me, walk in the park in comparison. For me, the hardest sections were the parts with the Soviet heavies. These mini-boss like enemies, there's a section where you have to fight two at once, and it's pretty damn hard until you finally make your way to the APC. see, there's another part where you have to ride this mainframe up to the surface and you totally lose track where the hell enemies are. And the only other slightly hard section is this annoying rocket launcher final mission part where you have to shoot down these towers. It's a little tricky. Enemies in general seemed just as hard on veteran as they did on regular in my opinion. With the split endings I mentioned, I personally witnessed two different ones because on my second playthrough I chose nearly all different options, which of course yielded a different outcome. Anyway, they go like this. The good ending is where you stop Perseus and take down his safe house in Solovetsky, Russia. It's not super satisfying, but I do like the final scene where Adler attempts to kill you as Bell, and it's ambiguous to who kills who. I like that because neither characters carry on in the story chronologically, so it sort of addresses that. The bad ending is where you go to Duga, Russia instead of Solovetsky. You then admit to Adler that you sided with Perseus. He proceeds to immediately kill you. Definitely the least satisfying of the three. The worst ending, which is honestly my favorite, is where you again go to Duga. You set up a surprise ambush, but this time you don't admit anything to Adler and instead carry out the ambush. You then proceed to slow-mo kill the side characters, then Woods, then Mason, and finally you slowly stab Adler through the heart. You then meet up with Perseus and the two of you detonate all the nukes and go to Solovetsky together for safety. It's pretty crazy and not expected, but I do like how they went all out evil with it. I think it's just accepted as non-canon obviously because the main characters like Woods and Mason are confirmed to have lived in the next games, but it didn't bother me because the split endings in Black Ops 2 contain main character deaths as well. So in terms of enjoyability, short version is I'm a fan. Pretty damn good, but it just had a lot to live up to in order to be great. I've kind of avoided other people's opinions on the story because I didn't want to taint my own opinion. The story to me is just so close to what I want it to be. Old characters mixed with real people alongside new characters, all while taking place in the 70s and 80s, and in my opinion it just doesn't hit as hard as the stories in BO1 and BO2. The game is fun. It feels good and it keeps you entertained, but most of the story is filled with this action movie-esque plot lines with not a ton of substance to them. What makes BO1 and BO2 storylines, notice how I'm not including BO3, so great is there's action alongside a side story of confusion, conspiracies, double-crossing, brainwashing, and a changing of history. There's balls to the wall, shoot 'em up action sections, but they all tie into a story you really care about. Cold War has those typical action shooter genre moments, but they only tie into a grander plot in the last two missions. Those psychedelic, confusing, all the pieces coming together moments only happen in the last 20 to 30 minutes of the game. I just wish they alluded more to the fact that Bell is actually a brainwashed double agent. I'm well aware they have nods to it throughout the game. It's more obvious when I played on the second time, but it's just really subtle and I just don't care. BO1 is just so good because they intro each mission with Mason and Hudson discussing the numbers and the broadcast station, constantly reminding us, and there's solid nods throughout the story. In Cold War, it's just kind of sprung on you with very little impact at the end. Like I said with the psychedelic moments, there are some similar to the numbers in the first Black Ops game which actually make a quick cameo, and the second to last mission is actually very unique and you play through this jungle mission several times in a row with changes each time, glitches and confusing elements added in, all while Adler instructs you where to go, which you can choose to listen to him or not, in a surprisingly open map, all while avoiding bunker doors dropping in front of you or waves of Adler clones or just transversing through shrinking infinite hallways. It's crazy. It's awesome. I really liked that mission. The final part where it's revealed that you used to work for Perseus and you witness an attempt on your life and surprise, you survived and the US recruited you to fight Perseus because of your knowledge. It's fine. It's fine. It's a decent premise, but I just wish there was more stuff like that. More connected double storylines. More psychedelic, trippy, conspiracy content. But what we ended up getting, I'm totally content with. I mean, I'm more than content. I thought it was pretty damn swell. I mean, if you think about it, they follow the plot of the first Black Ops very closely, so it had to be good. But come on, where was the Reznov cameo? I was waiting for that. In conclusion, some might be wondering if I had any complaints, and to be honest, not really. The crouching was kind of clunky like it is in most Call of Duties. The only significant gripe I have with Cold War is the damn reloading mechanic, where the gun doesn't reload fast or at all when you run out while aiming in. Normally in CoD, when you're aimed in and you run out of bullets, they take you out of aim and you reload quickly. In this game, they alter that animation and it feels so slow and it got me killed so many times. I mean, don't fix fix it if it ain't broken, if you ask me. Something that also bothered me a bit, it's nothing major, but this is the first campaign where nearly everything you need to do requires you to go through a door by holding X. This mechanic is fine and all, but you need to hold X for nearly every interaction, and you need to be mad accurate in order to accomplish the interaction. The symbol is pretty small and sometimes easy to miss, but it's just an overall small annoyance. Those are literally the only things I noted down as things that bothered me, so with a list that small, I think that's an accomplishment. Despite how fun, good looking, and good feeling Cold War is, the story doesn't grip you as much as the spectacular Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 storylines. That's most likely nostalgia clouding my vision, and I'll likely look back on this game very fondly. It's a good ass campaign for sure, greatly above average, just in my opinion doesn't hold up to the first two Black Ops, but it sure as hell beats the unconnected, crazy long and hard Black Ops 3 campaign.
I'm a goddamn onion, Mason. You should know that.